Get started. I'm gonna go ahead and record, just hit okay. So good morning to all of you. Happy Tuesday. Here we are, halfway through February already. Crazy, right? This morning's call is a combined, Sami, just so that you know, it's a combined West and East region mastermind call. We typically do this once a month where we have like a special guest, such as yourself, Sami, on the call, really just sharing your best practices. So Sydney is my counterpart, Sydney Maurer. We've got both combined. Hello, Miss Sid. And we are excited for all of you, number one, to investing in you and being on this call. Number two, we're going to have a lot of also, Sami, we asked some of our leaders, they could invite and extend the invitation to 2 of their coaches. So for some of those newer coaches that are on the call, we do this mastermind every single week, week in, week out. And again, this month we're featuring Miss Sami Hoffhines, and this is her opportunity to share her best practices around how she encourages coaches to rank advance. That's number one. And, you know, one of the things we talk about is how much time do you spend recruiting versus reviving? Who struggles with that? Recruiting versus reviving. Come on, let me see your hands. Who struggles with that? How do you balance your time and attention? So she's going to talk a little bit about that as well. But here's the thing, girls, I don't think there's any gentlemen on the call, but ladies, this call is going to be twofold. Number one, I've asked Sami to share her best practices on how she encourages coaches to rank advance. Then here's the deal. We're going to open it up for Q&A at the end. All right. For all the newer coaches that might be new to this call, this is not the time to go like radio silent. Okay. Not the time to go radio silent. If you've got a question, ask the question, because odds are more than likely somebody else is going to have that same question, right? So can I get a yes? Are we good with that? Thumbs up that you're not going to be afraid to ask any questions. Let me see a nod. Yes, head nod. Okay. Perfect. So before we get into the topic, I want to share a couple of highlights of this little dynamo, this little firecracker that we have on the call. She's like, oh my God, Wendy. So Sami Hoffhines, she's a little spunky, if you know her. If you don't know her, she's a little spunky, little sass, and she might demonstrate that today, but she's going to do it in a very lovingly way, in a tough love, right, Sami? In a tough love way. She is a dog lover. She's got 2 Dalmatians. That's like her personal. And now let's talk about Beachbody. So she is one of our top coaches in the network for all of you that are on this call. Okay. One of our top coaches in the network. She's been coaching for 7 years. She has been in Success Club for 80 consecutive months, right? She is a 5-time elite, superstar Diamond 2, here to share. Oh, drum roll, please. Here to share how she encourages her coaches to rank advance. You got girls, can we give some love to Miss Sami? Sami, it's all you, girl.
Gosh, I love you, Wendy. Man, those introductions, that makes me sound way cooler than I am. Let me just tell you. Well, hi guys. My name is Sami Hoffhines. If you don't know from any other thing you've seen me in, I have been coaching again for 7 years. My upline is Jamie Innes. So if you don't know me, you probably know her. And if you have seen anything from Jamie, we couldn't be more polar opposites. So I'm going to kind of have a little bit of a gut check from you. Wendy, is there a way to like mute I feel like I'm on AIM when people are coming in the chat, or anyone remember that? Is anyone old enough to do that? Okay, so I'm going to share my presentation and then answer any of you guys' questions at the end. I always try to make a presentation because otherwise I just get sidetracked. So if you have questions, save them for the end, but I'll kind of breeze through this as fast as I can. But encouraging your coaches to rank advance. Now, I think what's important to note here is we need to have a little bit of a gut check. And I needed to do this, I would say probably mid-year last year, and then again at the beginning of this year. And ask yourself, are you trying to revive your 2020 team? And I say 2020 team because that's where a lot of coaches had their big spike in their business. And maybe it was 2021 for you. Maybe it was your 2019. I'm just using 2020 because that's, I would say, the most common answer. And our team in 2022 is not the same team in 2020. Now, you might have the same people, but those people are not the same. Their goals are not the same. We cannot expect that same growth and dreams in a completely new environment. And I think what's important to note is that in 2020, things were different, obviously, in the real world and in Beachbody, right? So when we're recruiting and there's no options to go to the gym, Beachbody was a very organic conversation because everyone kind of had to adjust in some way, shape, or form. And so when you're trying to revive this team that saw such quick success in 2020 or a different time in their business, you're almost trying to like bark up the wrong tree, right? If you can't change the team, you can change your mindset about the team you have. And I think what's important to start this conversation off is if you're trying to encourage your coaches to rank advance and you're trying to encourage them the same way you did it in 2020, there's a problem, right? If we're not revamping our strategies, we're not keeping up to date with what's going on. It's kind of like if we're not keeping up to date with our workout programs and we're just trying to beat a dead horse here and try to do insanity and then the 21-day fix. And now we're going back to insanity. We're not bringing in anything new, right? Same thing with your team. One thing that I think is really important is asking yourself if you're recruiting the right people. Go look at your elite report from last year. How many people did you bring in that PSSC1 category? And I think this is a really good gut check for me when I look from year to year, because is that number 2, 5, 15, 25? Like, what is your number of coaches that saw success right away? And if that number is low, that's what we need to focus on. That means that we are focusing our time either bringing in the wrong people, or we're focusing our time on the people that we already have, and we're expecting them to continue to rank advance. So how often are we bringing in coaches with the drive that we have, the drive that we want? And if that number is low, and only you know what low is to you, I know what my number is with low. And when I look at 19, 20, and 21, I had completely 3 different years in my business. One of them was way better than the others. One of them was middle tier and one was pretty low. And if 2021 is your low year, those are the coaches that are contributing to elite this year, right? And so we need to figure out how to boost that category and really recruit the right people. And if that number is doable, like ask these coaches what they saw in your coach mentorship or your team page, or maybe your new coach calls, what it was that they saw success right away with. I always like to go back to these coaches and I'm like, hey, what did you do? What did I say? What kind of training worked for you to go hit Emerald quickly, to go hit Success Club quickly, to even just sign up one person quickly? What conversation did we have that was really something that you resonated with, so I can continue that on with my new coaches and move forward? And are they in an environment to succeed? I talk about this a lot on calls because, like Wendy was talking about, I feel like coaches kind of go in one of 2 buckets. And sometimes we go in each bucket depending on the time of year. And it's this balance of hand holding. You're the coach that is going to handhold these coaches. They tell you they want to work, so you drop everything and you get on calls with them. And then sometimes you're disappointed. Or you're coach B, where you're taught to just recruit, and your coaches will run if they want to. You can't force anyone to do anything, but now you're spending so much time recruiting that these old coaches like me, I was one of these old coaches that was here for a year and I didn't do anything in my business. And if my coaches didn't, or my coach, obviously she was my sister, so I was a little biased, but if she didn't spend time with me, I wouldn't have done Beachbody. I will be 100% honest with you. If I would have had a different environment, it wouldn't have worked. If she was only focusing on her new people, I wouldn't have done anything. And so it's trying to figure out what balance you need and what balance you've been in. And maybe at the end of the year, you were like, man, I was just trying to revive my team. I've spent 6 months now reviving my team and nothing's changed. Well, maybe we need to start focusing on recruiting again. And that needs to be your main focus. Or maybe you've been high recruiting and no one's transitioning. You're getting all these clients and no one's transitioning over to coaches. Well, maybe you're not spending enough time with them. Maybe it's trying to figure out where you are and what you can kind of adjust moving forward. One thing that I like to do every single week, and some of you probably do this, but show them healthy competition. If you want your coaches to rank advance, show them what you expect, show them what you're looking for, show them what are the things that are going to help them get to the next level. And so 2 boards that I do every week. One is obviously the road to diamond. So how many active coaches are they at? And yes, I put fallen diamonds on this. Sometimes I put a baby brand new emerald on there. Some coaches, I've seen them do these boards and they even put halfway to emerald. I personally started at emerald because I'm like, hey, if we're going to do this business, we got to get to emerald first thing. And so every week I'm updating this graphic, and it's cool to see them change, but it also helps these coaches realize if they were a diamond at one point and they're at 3 active coaches now, we're not on the same playing field, right? So I don't want them to expect that they're going to stay always in the same spot, if that makes sense. And then the other board I do is top team builders. So you can do this with PCs, you can do this with coaches. I just lump it all together and I just call it all coaches just for simplicity here. But I know my sister, when she does this board, she does PCs and then coaches. But I shout them out and I will do the top recruiters for that week. And so that's kind of a cool way to showcase your coaches. If you're getting them to rank advance, they want their name up there. They want to, compete with other people on that board. They don't want to have a week where their name isn't up there. And I think it's always important. And one thing that I used to do is I used to add myself to all these boards too. And I think it's, you can when you're building a business center and things, but I don't want my picture to be spotlighted. I want my coaches' pictures to be spotlighted. That's a personal preference. And so sometimes I'll include it, sometimes I won't, but I just think it's important for them to see, like, these are the things that we're looking for if we're going to be moving on along the way. And I update these every single week. If they feel alone, they'll dream alone. I think that's so important, especially with the way 2020 and 2020 have come. Like, you guys know, if you have people in a chat and one person is not in the right mindset, it starts to shift that way. And then the discouragement, the negativity, that just kind of like all comes out, versus when they're in a really healthy mindset, you put them in a group chat and everyone's firing each other up. I feel like, if anything, 2021 specifically has brought in connection, and it's brought in that we are a ship together and we're either going to succeed together or we're going to fail together. And so I'm always reevaluating who's in that boat, where are they at? And they're kind of making sure that they're always having rolling success partners, because how many times have we seen where you're with a success partner and that person falls off? And then sometimes if they're a shaky coach, they fall off with them. And maybe we could have prevented that. Maybe they could have gotten someone that was a little bit more excited. And so I like to have them have rolling success partners, because that way they're always getting fresh ideas. They're always getting someone at their same level. This picture was from Greece, or I was going to say Greece. Wow. Bora Bora. And we just got back from the top 10 trip from 2021 because everything got delayed. But I think what I learned the most on this trip was that there's power in empowerment, obviously, right? And so collaboration creates healthy competition. And I think it's really cool to see what you can do together. And when I started talking to these other top 10 coaches, I realized how drastically different we grow our businesses, how drastically different our stories are that brought us into Beachbody. And what I realized is that it all works. It all creates something so much more powerful when you bring in people that have completely different focus in this business, and they're all successful, right? So if you are someone who's in person or in bucket A and you're sitting there and you're trying to revive your team and doing cool, there's a lot of coaches in that group that do the same thing and it works. They have low recruiting numbers and they have really, really strong quality of who people are kind of rank advancing. And if you're a person B and you're a high recruiter, great. A bunch of those girls are as well, and it works. And so you got to figure out your jam, your kind of healthy mesh. And so for the pods that I create throughout the year, and usually they don't really overlap too much unless it's obvious, but I like to do pods with Facebook Messenger or whatever works for you with current ranks. I do current ranks because it goes back to this idea of, if they're not holding a certain rank, we shouldn't all be collaborating with the same idea. Sure, if they drop in and out of rank every so often, that's a different story. But when someone is, a 1-star diamond and they're currently emerald, we got to figure out how to weigh so that the other 1-stars that they're collaborating with are also getting benefited, because otherwise we have a mismatched success partnership. And so every quarter I'll do like a current rank pod if I'm doing those pods at the time. Invite pods. This is a little tracker check-in that I like to do every so often. I do about once a quarter. And for anyone who wants to work the business, I do my PS coaches and they get put into this chat pod and they check in with 15 invites. So that's the thing that they do. That's all this group is used for. But if they're not checking in, and I will write them down, they get removed. Because I want someone who's going to meet me halfway, and I don't want to sit there and listen to someone say, I want to work the business, I want to do the things, but if they're not willing to send 15 invites, they're not really doing the bare minimum of what we need to do, right? And so these groups are always really good for me and my own kind of reevaluation of who's going to meet me halfway. Who are the coaches that I can actually pour into going into the next quarter of the year? Third one, Diamond Push Pod during an incentive period. I'm actually about to start one of these soon because I have a retreat qualification that's coming up where their deadline is March 24th. And so what I'll do is probably around Thursday, I'll look at whoever's pushing for this retreat and I will put them in a pod if they want. And this will be essentially about a 5-6 week pod where they can focus on hitting Diamond together and they can run sneak peeks together. And it's really strong collaboration. But then when that deadline's done, that group is done. This also happens around the deadline of Summit. So I'm just going to say June 4th because I feel like that was a deadline at one point. And so we'll say June 4th is the deadline for recognition at Summit. Well, around May 1st, I'm going to take anyone who wants to rank advance to Diamond or, any other rank or whatever at Summit. They want that recognition. We're going to put you in a pod. And you're going to be surrounded by people that are doing the exact same thing. And then June 4th comes, boom, the pod is done. There's a deadline to it so that it doesn't just like linger and random people are posting 3 months later. Like there's a start and a stop. And then entry into a push group. Sometimes we'll do a push group where you have to be, 4 active coaches, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so it's kind of that same structure with the deadline of the day that you need to get into the push group. And then I do a new coach push pod every month. So every time I run a new coach mentorship, I will put my new coaches in this push pod. And this comes with anyone who maybe they were a PC and upgraded, maybe they haven't really wanted to work the business, but they sort of have, and they want to get in, or any new coach will get put into this. And one of the first things that I ask them is, do you identify more as like a jogger, runner, or walker in this business? And I just see what they say. And it's funny because sometimes people are like, oh, I'm going to walk. And then they go hit Emerald. And then some people are like, I'm going to run. And then they don't do anything. So, but it's just a good pace for me to see where the generalized group is. Plus I give them goals based on that thing that they just said. So I can refer back to it. Oh, you're a jogger. Great. Your goal is to hit Emerald in the next 2 to 3 weeks. Runner. All right, let's go hit Emerald this week. Walker. All right, we're going to shoot more for like 4 to 6 weeks for you to kind of get your foot wet, get in the door. But again, I don't say longer than that. And I think that's important to note too, because even if they're going to walk in this business, if they take 7 months to go hit Emerald, we're not on the same playing field here. If we're going to do the business, even if we're walking, we're going to do the business. So another thing that I do that has been kind of helpful to help my coaches rank advance is showcase again the things that I want them to do in order to rank advance. So the obvious ones, Hillary, she changed 3 lives her first month. Great. Well, obviously we're going to shout that out because that's a huge, huge thing. Annie Ellie, when she signed up 2 days ago and already impacted her first life halfway to Emerald. Cool. I'm going to shout that out so that any of my new coaches or any of my, maybe PCs that are in that group, or maybe anyone who is just kind of like, I kind of want to do Beachbody. Now they know what I'm looking for. Now they know that is something that's going to set the gold standard, and recognition is huge for a lot of people. And so if they want to get shouted out, that's what they're going to do. This happened this week. My coach Deborah has been a client of mine for so long, and she finally became a coach and signed up her first PC. And what was cool about her is I didn't even share the share cart with her yet. She messaged me. She's like, I just signed up my first PC, but I'm going to shout that out because I think it's important. And then Laura had a really cool post about the Ultimate Portion Fix eating plan. So I'm going to shout that out. I'm going to screenshot her post. There was more to it. And I put that in my coach page so that they see, hey, if you want to create curiosity marketing, or you want to have here's a good baseline. And this helps them in turn rank advance because 1, their confidence is up. 2, now they know what to look for. And 3, it's kind of like coaching them with other people's examples so that it's not always just Sami says this. It's also Laura says this, and Deborah says this, and Anielle, and it just goes on at least once or twice a week. And it's kind of cool for them to see. Do they have duplicatable resources? I'm going to shout out my friend Holly Hillier here, because Holly was our guest speaker at our retreat last year. And she blew my mind with this one simple thing, is just duplicatable resources. And I was like, I thought I had those. I thought I had duplicatable resources, but when I looked at my downline, a lot of things stopped at one level. Like I would hit Success Club, my coaches would hit Success Club. And then the next level was just struggling. You know, there'd be here and there, they'd have a coach hit Diamond or Success Club, but really the duplication stopped. And so I started asking myself after that retreat, what can I create that's going to impact the levels down of my downline, so that 5 layers down, they have things to help grow their business? Because sure, yes, they have team calls, they have graphics, they have the things that I've been sharing, but something was wrong because there was no duplication in growing an organization. And so the beginning of this year, my top coaches and I put together a 14-day coach prep school, and it was all revamped, because when it comes to things like inviting, social media, we know this changes constantly. And honestly, I'll probably have those coaches who did those specific videos revamp them come April, May, because things are going to change from January. But this was a 14-day school that were all YouTubes and straight to the team page. Hey, this is for anyone in here. So that 5 layers down, they can have access to the trainings that my coaches did, and they can either recreate them or they can use them. And so it was just a simple thing that tweaked kind of how I was looking for. And in my team calls, even, I started asking the speakers and myself, when you share, can you make something so that these coaches can take this and share it and share it and share it, rather than just teach? You're training and teaching. And so the next thing is a quarterly sneak peek. So I have actually been talking to 2 of my elite coaches about doing this every quarter and opening up a quarterly sneak peek for our whole downline, so that in between when we're running this, our coaches can kind of watch our video and just replicate it. It's a duplicatable resource to kind of use moving forward, but it's always updated. I think that was something that I struggled with, because I would create a new coach guide or a client guide or whatever, and I would share it with my team, but then it would sit there for a year. Well, things change. We have body, we have a bike. I mean, there's so much that I needed to continually revamp, that I realized I needed to start doing this every quarter. And so this quarterly sneak peek, this is great for that coach that comes in, that's your coach's coach. Their upline doesn't work the business. They got put in and now they don't know what to do, but they might want to work the business. Well, what if I can help them? What if I can indirectly help that couple layers down that I haven't been able to really truly reach? Great. Now all they need to do is invite to this. They need to do the connection piece, the most important piece in their business. And I'll bring the business information. Cool, done. And that coach signs up. Now they have a new coach mentorship. It's a duplicatable resource we can use moving forward. And then a 21-day quick start. So way back when I first started, which is 8 years of doing the Ultimate Portion Fix, which is crazy because I think it came out in 2014, but maybe I'm wrong. But that's when I did it. And so February 2014, some of those challenge groups that I started running when I first started doing my business were so good, because I would focus fully on nutrition, because that's where I struggled the most. And then what happened over the last couple of years is my challenge group became more of a lifestyle group, which was great for the person that has been around, that created a lifestyle. They're doing the workouts, they're doing the nutrition, they're drinking Energize. Great, awesome. It's a very motivating group. However, my brand new clients went straight into a lifestyle group. And if I would have done that, I wouldn't have seen the results I wanted, because I was already doing this as a lifestyle. I needed a quick start. I needed to go all in with the Ultimate Portion Fix to truly get results, to understand what it even meant to have a lifestyle way of eating. And so 2 of my other coaches and I put together this 21-day quick start with a prep week, and we are going all the way back, and we're having them either do MBF, 21-day fix real time, or job one. Very short, effective programs that match this eating plan. And we're focusing on them checking in with a tracker every single day. And this is another resource that I can share with my coaches to help them see success with their rank advancement, so that it's something that can be used as generations go on as, hey, even if you only have 2 people, here's all the resources you need. You get your people in, they're going to see success with this group. This way they can focus on connecting and inviting, which is going to be the main focus of them rank advancing. So I think that's all I have, but I'm open for any questions you guys have or anything you want to know.
No, that's good. Okay, let me unmute everyone. Okay, so you should all be unmuted if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so there's a couple questions in the chat, Sammy. So the first one is from April. So the road to diamond, is that everyone emerald and above? And is that just for your PS?
So that graphic is just my PS. I guess I've never really thought to do it with the whole downline, but you most definitely could. I don't think mine could personally fit on 1 or 2 graphics. So it'd be multiple screenshots and I just like things really clean. But if you are really good with graphics, maybe that would work for you. So I would say there's benefits to both. I just primarily work with my PS on certain things. And yeah, so that's for me.
Okay. Next question. And I had a couple of these questions as well. So let's talk about the rolling success partner. How does that, can you just explain your process with that? Because I know there's tons of coaches that would love a success partner. Just what is your process around that?
Yeah, so I will tell my coaches they have to be emerald in order to get a success partner. Only because truly, I believe, emerald's the first step. And if we're not sharing that with our friends and family, like, I don't know, the next steps are going to be really, really difficult. So that's where I start with it. I get them to emerald, and then I will try to reevaluate this every like 3 or 4 months. And so it kind of goes based on this recognition graphic that I just showed you on their road to diamond. So they have to be emerald and then they graduate from diamond. And what's cool is this graphic will also be a good visual representation of who's keeping people active, because how many times have you had a coach come in, they have 6 coaches, and then 2 months later, everybody's inactive. Well, I don't want them to be paired with someone who, is hitting Success Club 6, keeping retention, because they're in 2 different playing fields. Doesn't mean one is like better than the other, but I want someone who's kind of on the same growth path as them. And so what I'll do is I'll kind of just mess it. If it's Stephanie's paired with Casey. All right, these 2 have been crushing it together. Well, Casey took a step back from the business. I immediately find Stephanie a new success partner that's around the same active coaches as her. And then she pairs with someone new. And sometimes if Casey's still around, I'm just going to add a third. I'm going to switch them up a little bit so that they have someone new to run a free group with. And that's where I kind of baseline where I'm at and where they're at, because if I get messages from Stephanie and she's all of a sudden in a really negative mindset, I immediately message Casey and I'm like, hey, how's everything going? Are you, looking for someone to kind of give you some fresh ideas, so that my coaches know that a success partner isn't an end all be all. I feel like a lot of times when we talk about it, it's kind of like, hey, this is the person you're going to grow your business with for 2 years. And it's such a strong relationship, and it can be, but how often, and all of my success partners and I have become best friends. Eventually you stop pushing each other because you know what the other person is going to say. And so eventually they need someone new. They need a new perspective. They need someone who's going to call them out on their SHIT. And so it's kind of cool to see that transition throughout it, but there's no like alert that I'm going to send myself to switch it up. I just kind of go based on how I'm feeling and how I can kind of, if I have a brand new coach in my mentorship who's crushing it with someone else, I immediately pair them up at once they're emerald. And then we kind of just go through that process together.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you. Okay, next question is around your invite pods. There's a lot of questions. The main one is, I know it was, 30 days, 15 invites. Is that 15 a day?
Yeah, so that is 15 a day. And this is where I get a little micromanagey. However, it has worked really well with the percentage of people who stay in the pod who end up hitting Success Club. But I will have a list of my people, and we'll say it starts with 30 coaches who want to build. Well, at the end of the month, the amount of people that are still there is usually half, just because people stop checking in, and I will remove them, because if they're not going to do it, there's no sense in me looking for their tracker every day. So they send 15 invites, or maybe it's 15 connections, whatever your baseline is. Maybe it's sending your tracker. We just got to a point where my coaches were struggling with connections and invites more than anything else on the tracker. So that's what we did. And every day they knew that they had to check in. And so I would tag them in the morning if they didn't, and, kind of give them a grace day where life got busy. They didn't mean to miss a day or whatever. But if they're missing a couple days a month, I always just say diamond coaches don't miss a 10th of a month. They just don't. They show up. And so the least we can do is meet each other halfway. And so, yeah, approximately 15 a day for the whole month. And then at the end of the month, I used to give myself a percentage because I love math. And it used to be, 70% or more of the people, obviously I probably can't use that as a disclaimer, but my own personal experience, there's about 70% of the people who stay end up hitting Success Club because they've had more conversations and they've been held accountable. And it's just getting them to do the things that they haven't been held accountable for themselves, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. So it sounds as though you are kind of, I don't want to say micromanaging, but kind of a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of for me to see, yes, it's for them and their business, but it's
Right.
really for me to reevaluate who are the people that are going to meet me halfway? Who are the people that if I give them a bonus task in this chat, like, hey, I challenge you to go invite one scary prospect. Who are the people that are going to do that? And those are usually the people that are going to progress throughout the year, and could be just the wrong season. And maybe they just got into the push pot at the wrong time. But I don't know. When I was ready to build, I was ready to build. And so I just go back to that. If it might be scary and it might be hard, but this is the place to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So Nicole had a question. How do you teach your downline to recruit?
Yeah, this is the thing that I've been trying to figure out for the last year too, because like I said, when I looked at my downline, last year, not this year, but last year we had 4 elite coaches. So these 4 coaches came up, they saw success in their business, and there was a lot of gap between my elite coaches and my diamonds. And I'm like, okay, how can I get my diamonds to go 1-star, 2-star without just having it be your significant other?
Yeah.
And so I started trying to figure out what I was doing and create those duplicatable resources for them. Because sure, there's going to be a coach where you sign up and they just hit the ground running and you're like, I don't know what I did, but they just did the things. And so I try to ask those coaches that saw success, was there something I said? Was there something I did? And I shared those pieces of advice with my coaches. And I know that there's no perfect answer for this. I wish I could say, oh, I gave them this training and this is how it taught my coaches to recruit. I feel like there's so many things that go into that as to why that coach isn't recruiting. Maybe what they're doing is not duplicatable. Maybe what they're doing on social media, they're not even talking about Beachbody. They're talking about a million other things. Maybe their challenge group is kind of dead, but they feel embarrassed to talk to you about it. Like, I will go through and I'll try to reevaluate those things with them and try to figure out what that missing link is. But I think this is a common question throughout the whole network, because the number one thing is we want a big organization and we want our coaches to succeed. And, there's only so much you can do, but I really try to take a step back and ask myself, if my coach was standing behind me and they watched me work from start to finish, could they do that themselves and still see success? And there were certain things I could say, oh yeah, if they replicated this part of my business, they could do that and they would see success. But then there were other things that I was doing that it just wasn't duplicatable. And it was just something that, I don't want to say I got lucky on, but it was just something that worked organically with my own business. But the more I could create that duplicatable resource where they could learn and implement, that's where they started seeing success. And one thing that I feel like is very important is fully understanding the compensation plan, like fully understanding why your coaches will be why your coaches should be a 2-star diamond coach. Because what I had a lot of, especially in 2020, was I had coaches, they ran to diamond, boom, check the box. We had a ton of diamonds that year and not a lot of growth beyond that. And I kept asking myself, like, why? What did I miss to get them to 1-star and 2-star? And now, there's a lot of trying to figure out like how to get back to diamond or how to still get to 1-star, 2-star. And so I started understanding the compensation plan where I could kind of break down their organization on a one-on-one and show them what 2-star would look like for them, what that would look like for them, so that they understood, hey, when we get to open up your second business center, this is where we're going to place it. And this is how it's going to impact your income.
Yeah.
Because when you can put, like Jamie and Steve, when they did that for me, I didn't even like diamond was great. I wanted diamond. I wanted 1-star, but I knew 2-star was the goal because that equaled this in my life, that equaled this in my income and leaving dental assisting. And so it was kind of that light bulb for me. And obviously maybe not every single person is going to have that light bulb, but I think it has helped my coaches see that vision beyond diamond so that they don't just run a diamond, check the box and say, okay, now what? It's, oh, well, yeah, I checked the box, but that's because I'm going to 2-star.
Yeah, no, that's good. Okay. So, and I don't want to backtrack, but speaking of 2-star, because that's so critical. I mean, that is such a critical milestone in everyone's business. What's your process for getting your coaches to emerald and being excited about it? And again, I want to also talk about that with 2-star. I mean, you just explained it for 2-star, but what about for emeralds?
Yeah. So for me, one of the things I'm very, very strong apparently with the compensation plan and how I train, but I think when I put that into perspective for them, that carryover volume starts at starts at emerald, and they're not going to start accumulating any of that until emerald. That's step one. And maybe they don't fully understand what carryover volume is when they're a brand new coach, but I give them the spark notes of it. And I really try to help them understand that your business begins at emerald. Sure, you might have pressed submit on your coach application, but if you truly want to do anything in this business, you got to start there. And sometimes that's a business decision. And maybe that's sometimes, investing. And I talk about my husband and I at the time were essentially techs in our original path. Like he was an optometry tech, whatever that's called. And I was a dental assistant, and we didn't make much money. But I knew that when Jamie and Steve set the precedent that I needed to be emerald in order to do anything in this business, this is how we budgeted in order to make that happen. And now in hindsight was, entering him disclaimer, the best financial decision we made was signing him up early and doing the things. And so it was kind of like, I tell them that early in the mentorship, which might seem scary, but if they're scared from the beginning, we're going to have a lot more problems later on. I want to be very open and honest with them in the beginning, because if they're expecting to make a ton of money and they're not pushing for emerald quickly, we're in a disconnect here. And I don't want them to go 3-4 months without being emerald, looking back and being like, well, why didn't we do that sooner? Because that's how I would feel if I didn't realize the impact that emerald was going to make. And so emerald in my mentorships is kind of like step one. And I talk about emerald within the first probably 36 hours that they sign up. And if it scares someone away, again, we need to have that discussion. Maybe there's a reason behind that, but a lot of times it's just, you have to set the precedent. Otherwise there's going to be a really strong disconnect of where they want to go and where they're at currently.
Okay. So you're setting the benchmark. I mean, that is part of your new coach training, it sounds like, and really getting them to emerald in the first 36 hours. That's kind of your.
Yeah, I definitely, in our new coach training, there's the basics and then there's emerald. It's the second video that they see. And it's kind of like that 24 hours to emerald. I think Emily Faber created that idea of, hey, we're going to do this in our first week. And that goes back to when I say, runner, jog, or walker. I mean, the max of what I want them to do in weight is 4 to 6 weeks of hitting emerald, because if they're going to do this business, it starts now, and carryover volume is so crucial.
Yeah. Okay. Another question in the chat. So obviously you talked about, you've got your retreat coming up. People are pushing, you've got the pods scheduled for specifically for those, key dates, so to speak, summit, your retreat, etc. So the question is, how do you kind of push, and I don't want to say push, but how do you inspire, how do you motivate those, get those excited, those newer coaches, excited for that push without overwhelming them? Because I think that is it's a big struggle, a big struggle. So how do you do that?
Yeah. The one thing I've learned a lot in the last 2 years is my coaches won't be overwhelmed unless I tell them that they're going to be overwhelmed.
So good.
I think it's very important with the delivery of that conversation of how to go about doing it. If I have this conversation with you and you're going 15-star, and I'm like, hey, so this is going to be tough, but I think you can do it, but you're going to need to lose some sleep probably along the way. It's going to take a lot of work. You're already kind of like, okay, well, that's not the right delivery, right? If I'm going to have a conversation with you and I'm like, hey, let's do 15-star. What do you feel like if you could do your max, how many people could you recruit this month? That's a completely different approach to the same thing. And so when I have coaches that come in And, my retreat deadline is March 24th. So if I have a coach sign up today and she's ready to run, I just throw it out there. Hey, I'm not sure what your thoughts are on this, but I think you'd be really great for this. And I would love to hang out with you in Arizona. I am actually hosting a retreat, and it's for all new, brand new diamonds, which is essentially 12 people that you would be bringing on between now and then. What are your thoughts on that? What do you think? We can make that happen? And I just see where their head's at. And a lot of times, unless I say 12 is a lot, they don't realize 12 is not a lot, right? And so I think it's really important I know that I was at certain points in my business where if I was losing a lot of business builders, or you feel like you're kind of doing this alone, or you get scared. You get scared of losing yet another business builder. So you either don't have that conversation at all, or you have that conversation really timidly, right? You're really scared about not losing another coach. And you have to remember, you got here, you're going to get there again, and the right person's going to run. And even if that person falls short and they get to 6 active coaches, would they have done that had you not had that conversation? I don't know. And so I think a really important thing is to kind of channel that confidence that you either had or you have, and really just dive back into that conversation, because the right person's going to receive that. And they might think 12 people is nothing if you deliver that conversation that 12 people is doable.
So good, Sami. How you deliver it is so very true. Okay. What are the questions that we have? I think I got to all the questions that are in the chat. So feel free. I know this might be bold of you to unmute yourself and ask her a question. Listen, you've got her like one time. Now is the time to ask her.
Ooh, okay. I'll ask a question. Sorry,
yeah.
I'm watching a 2-year-old, so he's
You're
just
good, Sarah. You're good.
So, thank you so much, Sami. I love I have like a diamond bound, but I love how you listed it, that healthy competition, to go, shit, that girl's, oh, see, I'm even swearing in front of him, is like further along than me. So my question is, I have a lot of fallen diamonds that say they want it back.
Yeah.
I've put them in push threads, and I literally feel like, you know what to do. What do you do with those people that say they want it and they really do, but they're not pushing? Because I've gotten soft in my push because I've gotten burned by coaches by, saying, go after it, this is what you want, and then they just kind of like go back. So how do you approach that?
Yeah, you're preaching the choir here. I feel you. I told my coach Alex, who might still maybe not be on this call, but the other day I was like, I feel like I got soft. When did I get so soft? And there's a lot of heartbreak in this business. You pour into people, you spend time and money and effort and all of your love on these people, and then all of a sudden it's like, boom, they're gone. And so a couple things that I've done recently that I feel like has helped at least certain of them, because you do have to accept that just because they hit diamond once and they say they want to be diamond again doesn't mean that they're going to actually be diamond again. And that's where kind of like that going to the recruiting mode is going to help you a lot, because I was also in the same boat. And so one of the things we did, as in my sister and I, is we got all of our fallen diamonds on a recent call. So that one, they were in the same company, they're not alone. And we kind of had this real and raw conversation of what is keeping you from diamond. And I actually have the 5 topics here. And these are the things that I asked my coaches as to, hey, why do you feel like you are not seeing success in your business anymore? Like, what are the things? Because I think a lot of times, at least I frame a lot of my business around rank advancing beyond the next year. And so, you think about Summit, you're going to be recognized as a diamond, and then a diamond, and then a diamond. So they feel like if they want to walk the stage, they got to get to 1 star. And like my retreats are actually the same idea. So they have to rank advance beyond the last year. And so my fallen diamonds are like, okay, well, I have 6 coaches. For me to get to 1 star, I'm just not going to be able to do that. So I'm trying to find the post real quick. And if I can't, I can send it to, oh, here we go. So these were the options I gave them. And then one of them they gave me. So a lot of them, I have all 8 coaches, but no builders. Okay, well, that tells me we need to focus on rank advancement. We need to figure out why you're not recruiting any business builders. Maybe your challenge groups are kind of dead. Maybe you, again, never talk about coaching. Maybe you have a spouse and they were Emerald once, but you just are too scared to build them again because you don't have anyone opposite. Like, let's have that conversation. 2, I can send invites, but I don't do it consistently. Remember what pod I'm going to do when I hear that? Like, that's a really good way for me to hold them accountable and see if they're actually going to do it consistently. Well, 3, I'm afraid I'll fail or fail again once I hit. Usually that tells me they're not in the right mindset in order to build, and we need to go figure out that. And yes, PD helps, but like, we really need to have an honest, open conversation about why you feel like that's failing. 4, I'm unsure if I can truly make it happen. And everyone who chose that, I had to have indirect conversation or direct conversation with just one-on-one with them, because all of them had a different reason as to why they felt like they can't truly make it happen. But it gave me answers. 4, I feel like I've lost fire, but deep down, I still want it. So these were usually people who had hit diamond and went all the way back to emerald, like 2 coaches. And I know they've been around for years, and we have to figure out kind of what's going on. And then the thing they told me about was expanding my network. They're ready to bring on people, but they're just struggling with expanding their network. And so we had a whole Zoom call about this. And I asked them to message me afterwards with their feedback, which was very eye-opening for me and very eye-opening for them. Another thing that I did actually after talking to Wendy was, with my retreats, they have to rank advance beyond the last year. Well, the last 2 years, in 2020, I had to cancel all retreats, obviously pandemic. And then we did have a retreat last year, but a lot of those coaches had already rank advanced, and they're like, I am just trying to get back to my rank. So what I did for the first time ever this year was I offered anyone who had not been diamond for a while a spot. And what they have to do is they have to hit Success Club February, March, and April. They have to rank advance a new emerald, and they have to get their diamond back by March 24th. And that gives them 6-ish weeks in order to do that. And it kind of shows to me who's going to push, because if they're not going to push in 6 weeks and get close, are they really going to push when they have more of a timeline? Or is it just that they want Beachbody? And so, not to say that that's like your answer, but I started formulating the conversation around, okay, well, what's going to make you actually do it? And how are we going to meet halfway versus me just drop everything, get on a one-on-one, talk for an hour and a half, and then they don't do anything, because that's a waste of your time too. And so for me, it's talking to these coaches after this honest conversation, talking to them about this push to diamond again, and really asking them, all right, my coach said this to me, actually. She's a lifetime 1-star, and she's what brought this to my light. Sorry, I'm going to swear. She's like, I feel like I'm at a point where I need to shit or get off the pot. And that mindset made me realize that, 2020 was a year, 2021. Now we're in a brand new year. This is our new normal. So we need to figure out, are you actually going to go do diamond? Or are you just going to say you're going to do diamond? Because if you're going to do diamond, let's figure out why you haven't been doing that. If you're going to say that, then I'm going to go recruit new people because I only have so much time. So that was I digress a little bit, but I think it's just important for you to really ask yourself, is this the coach that really wants it and they're going to do it? They're just struggling with X, Y, and Z in their business, and we need to revamp that. Or has this coach just said that, but they're not even getting on team calls? They are talkers. I give them a task to post 5 reels. They only do 1. Like, it's trying to figure out the meat in the middle. And I think that when you do that and you really take a step back and ask yourself that, if I was a third party, or if I was my upline or my success partner, and I was looking at this conversation and this relationship from a third perspective, what would they say? And that started changing it too, because I poured into so many of my coaches. But if I looked at how Jamie looked at this relationship, my sister would say, hey, this person hasn't even done anything in 3 months. You keep getting on one-on-ones. Like, we need to take a step back just because they say they want to work. And so I don't know, hopefully that helps.
No, Sami, those are really great questions. Will you send me those questions and I can share that if you're open to it with the group? Would that be helpful for all of you? Okay. Yes, that would be amazing. Sami, and you know, what's interesting, it's not interesting, but what I love about you is you do a lot of self-reflection, right? Like you do a lot of, okay, so what worked for you when you first came in as a new coach, right? Like what did I say? What did I do to help you succeed? There's a lot of reflection there. And I think so many times we forget to do that. We forget to confront. And I don't want to say confront like in a negative way, but we're afraid to have those conversations with our coaches. And I love that you get them all on a call. There's not a lot of leaders that they're afraid to get them on the call because they don't know, they're afraid of what they're going to hear. They're afraid that they're going to hear, I don't know that I can do this. I don't know that I trust whatever that is. They're afraid of that. But you are so, I mean, you said real, and I don't remember the other word that you used. What did you say? I don't remember, but you're just so real in terms of you opening up that conversation from the very beginning and say, okay, let's talk about this and how can I help you? So good.
Yeah, I feel like it's important for you to have that answer too. And a lot of times we don't want to get on that call because if that coach doesn't build, we feel like we've lost that coach. And so you kind of avoid the situation so that you don't get that answer, but you're only holding yourself back. And like I said, I mean, you do have a lot of heartbreak, but I would rather face that and know than to just sit and hope and wish and wonder.
Yeah, the best, I remember this quote. It was like the best teachers are the best students. Right. And I teach cycle and I take other people's classes because I want to do better at the end of the day, just like all of you. That's why you're on this call, because you want to do better. You want to be better for your team. And this is one way that you can do that. So Sami, it's so good. Okay. We've got just a few more minutes here. There's 2 other questions that are in the chat that we have not gotten to. So as a new coach, Sami, how do you even start with recruiting coaches? The conversion from my challengers isn't there. With almost 100 challengers in my community, I only have a handful of coaches and struggling to get more. What advice would you give her?
So first thing is change the script of how you're phrasing that. One, I feel like you're already overthinking it. Whenever people say I only have a handful of coaches, I always use my sister as an example. So maybe you've heard me say this before, but my sister has a team of, I don't know, 15,000 coaches. You don't need 1 million business builders to grow a massive business. You just need the quality people. And so don't discredit your only handful of coaches, because I know a lot of top coaches that only have a handful, yet they are having thriving organizations. So that's first thing. Second thing is when they pulled the superstar diamond chat, it was 50-50 split. And you really have to, you usually have a strong side of one of these. One is that you recruit a lot of clients and you're really good at transitioning them over. That was half the superstars. The other half of the superstars just bring in business builders right away. And there's pros to both ways. And I feel like when you're strong in one, you kind of want the other because that's just what you do. But you don't necessarily have to be good at everything to be good. Like, I feel like that's really important. One thing that I learned. And so if you are someone who's recruiting a lot of clients, we need to figure out why those people don't want to transition over. Are those people getting really bomb results? Okay, great. If they're getting really bomb results, then maybe we can work on their mindset. Maybe you need to recruit a few extra. Maybe you can kind of dive into that conversation and ask them like, hey, Sarah, you're crushing it. You are crushing this. Your results are incredible. Have you ever considered doing what I do? Oh, no, blah, blah, blah. Okay, may I ask why? May I ask why? And see if there's a commonality between your clients that are not transitioning over, because maybe it's something you can teach in your challenge groups. Maybe it's something, maybe they also feel like, what I've noticed a lot of my clients is they feel like they have to be me in order to be a coach. They don't realize that they don't have to do it full time, or that they don't have to be on social media all day long. And so we start talking about that in my challenge groups. I also have a lot of if you are strong in your challenge groups, a lot of my coaches, I will have them almost run like a sneak peek in their challenge group without running a sneak peek in their challenge group. And so they'll talk about coaching in a video without being like, this is how you transition over. It's kind of like, hey, if you show up in this group and you're loving these things, this is the difference. Nothing. you're just not getting paid for it. And it's just a simple conversation to have. And maybe they'll bring in their success partner or another testimonial so that people realize, like for me, I don't have children. I have 2 dogs, but I bring on people who are moms and they're kind of like, all right, well, my lifestyle is completely different than yours. But in my coach sneak peeks or in my challenge groups, I talk about how a lot of them are moms crushing it so that my new person sees that there's no one size fits all. There's no one lifestyle that fits all. And so if you are really good with recruiting clients, like let's have that conversation and figure out what's missing. And part of this is I'm actually on the back half of this where I just recruit usually business builders, but I want to get really good at bringing on people who want to transition over because I only have some here and there. And so that's why I started this 21-day quick start, because this 21-day group is what made me become a coach. That is where I felt so strong and confident for the first time in my entire life that I remember thinking, wow, if I could just make one person feel as good as I feel, I will have done my job, which is funny now because now I do this full time. But that was my initial thought. And I had no intention of building a business, but I just wanted people to feel the way I felt. And so I want people to feel that way. And if you're missing that, let's talk about it. And if you want to get really good at recruiting business builders, go reevaluate your social media. I mean, I know a lot of people say, like, if you're not talking about coaching, you're not going to bring on coaches, but are you talking about coaching? Or are you thinking you're talking about coaching? Because if I were to go to your social media right now, other than you running challenge groups, which again, you're bringing on clients, take out all that conversation. Do I know what you do and why you do it? Do I know your passion for coaching? Or do you sit down and you're like, hey guys, I'm just getting on a business meeting. Love my business meetings in the middle of the day. Like there's nothing there. I want to know how you earn this call. I want to know that you're learning from some random girl who talks really loud from Michigan. I want to know why you're jumping on a call at whatever time zone you're in on a friggin' Tuesday afternoon after Valentine's Day. Like I want to know those things about it so that when I'm following you, I feel your passion. I feel your passion. If you're anyone who partners with any other company, like for example, I partner with a CBD company and I feel so strongly about how it's impacted my life that I'm just not going to hold back. That's so beneficial for me and where my lifestyle is. But then all of a sudden, when it comes to coaching, people kind of shut down and they're like, well, I don't want to, why? You are here for a reason. Explain to me what you do so that when I feel your passion, I don't really care about anything else. I just want that. And if that comes with coaching, let's do it. Let's jump in, because if that's what makes me excited to wake up in the morning, that's what gets me consistent, then I don't care about the rest of the stuff. I'm not going to hold back because that's the thing that's going to change my life. I think that's just so important for you to understand. Because yeah, Carly put in the chat, like, takes a boomerang of this call. But instead of just boomerang and just say like work meeting, why? And I think that's the key that a lot of coaches are missing. Because if you want to bring on coaches that want to work, do they feel like they would want to when they watch your social media? Just a gut check.
Mic drop. Mic drop. Oh my gosh. Okay. Such a good question. All right. So how are we doing on time? All right. Can you answer one more question? Yes. Okay. I know if some of you have to go. I do want to answer just one last question. Some of you may have. So this was from April. April asked, do you have a specific training between Emerald and Diamond? Obviously, we know you've got the 14-day new coach mentorship, but she said, I feel like she struggles between having them complete their new coach training and hitting Emerald. But now what? Is it team calls for most part? How do you do that?
Yeah, I think it's exactly that. It's having them realize that yes, Diamond is the next goal, but so is Success Club, so is 1-star, so is 2-star. I think that when people, they create these vision boards, and I'm all for those things and these next big goals, but that's where when they set the goal, they have like that end date. I want to hit Diamond by March 24th. Okay, great. But what about after March 24th? If you want your coaches to see the vision, then we can't even just be talking about Diamond. we got to be talking about all of it. We got to be talking about how we are going to make X amount of dollars next month, how we're going to bring on X amount of people each month, how we're going to, my husband, when I was like struggling in the season of Emerald to 1-star, he always had me reevaluate how many people were on my team. And so I would be like, oh, well, I have 6 people on my team. He's like, how can we get to 8? So instead of it being a conversation to 12, it was 8. Then we're going 10. Then our next goal is 12 and diamond, but then the next goal is 15. So that it may not just be me recruiting, because your coaches obviously contribute to that too, but it was now a team goal. And it was little things that kind of had these benchmarks along the way and helping them understand the why behind it. Like, what is diamond going to do for them? Because a lot of coaches don't know. They might get a gift, they might get a retreat, whatever you do for your diamonds. But like, what's 1-star going to do for them? How's that going to impact their income? Why would they build, this business if they don't understand why they're doing it, right? And so I think it's important for them to realize that it goes beyond recognition. And so when they're at this Emerald goal, always talking about the next goal and the why of that next goal. So instead of being like, okay, now you're Emerald, our goal is diamond. Well, that's a big gap, right? Especially if they signed up a parent and a significant other. All right, well, we need 10 more people. We don't have 10 significant others, maybe you do, but I think it's just important for them to understand the next goal so that we can kind of set that date goal and being like, all right, so diamond is 12 people. We need 10 more. All right, what if we push for this by March 24th? But let's break it down between then so that every week, if you think that March 24th is your date, maybe it's 2 people a week so that you're trending on the way there, so that they're not focused on the big goal. They're focused on the little goal along the way, which is also going to translate to X amount of dollars. And so for me, it's a series of little goals that's going to help them accomplish the big goal. And then again, the why.
So good. Sami, listen, I know I'm not the only one. All of you feel her passion. It just oozes like outside of you. And thank you for pouring into all of us that are on the call. At one point, there was 86 or so on the call, Sami. So thank you for pouring into all of us. At the end of the day, before you all leave, listen, all of this training, she mentioned earlier, you mentioned training and teaching. All of this means nothing. You just invested an hour in yourself. All of this means nothing unless you're going to pick one thing to go implement in your business. A lot of you I know are on training calls each and every week, which is awesome. But now let's take one thing that you've learned from Sami that she just shared with all of your beautiful faces. Let's take one thing and let's implement that in the business. And I would love to see you in the chat pod that we have. You all post for the East region and the West region, post in the chat pods. What's your one takeaway from today? Sound good? All right, everyone, listen, I will see all of you next week on our mastermind. Sami, you're the bomb, girlfriend. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.